Listen!
Welcome everyone, this is Andre's Restart, and today we are talking about the only way I can truly envision a Nintendo Switch 2, or whatever Nintendo's going to call their next-gen console, announcement this year. I don't think in most cases this would be likely, but there's been a lot of things going on lately that have made me entertain the idea, and during our podcast this past Monday, we were floating around the idea, talking about the different rumors and things that are not true, some things that are fake, some things that may be true, some things said by official executives and things of that nature. There's a lot of different things going on, a lot of smoke. And it's an interesting concept, a prospect of this Switch 2 being announced this year, but I'm not going to say it's extremely realistic. Unless certain things happen, which is what we're going to be talking about today. But I do want to put out a few disclaimers and things. One, this is more of a quicker video. I know I've had a lot more quickly edited, simple videos this week. It's been pretty hectic. I've had a lot of vet visits and movings, and I had an all-nighter in terms of work. Just different things going on. So please bear with me. There's probably just going to be some Mario Kart footage playing as we talk about things, but you know, despite the simple editing for some of these videos, there are some bigger things coming. There's a bigger Zelda Theory video I've been working on throughout the week. I'm just waiting for some approvals, and that may come out soon. And yes, we are still aiming to hit 50,000 subscribers, so if you do enjoy my content, please subscribe and hit the notification bell. Your help is definitely needed. But it is interesting that I can put on some Mario Kart footage from the new DLC tracks that just came out. It's interesting that I've just finally got a chance to play the Pikmin 4 demo. It's only been out for not so long, but also I've been playing through Pikmin 1. I beat that, and I'm playing through Pikmin 2, and then we already have Pikmin 3 Deluxe, and yet I'm still playing Tears of the Kingdom. And I didn't finish Fire Emblem Engage that came out in January. Nor did I finish Advance Wars, because I had to play Future Redeemed before Tears of the Kingdom came out. And I've played through Metroid Prime Remastered multiple times this year, and then we have a whole bunch of other good games that are gonna come out later on this year, like Mario Bros. Wonder and Mario RPG. It's not like there hasn't been good content coming out this year from Nintendo. They have been putting out the games. And I know there are some out there that see this lineup of games coming from Nintendo, and they think that it just isn't realistic to think that a Switch 2 is around the corner. But there's a few things to consider here. How will Nintendo handle their transition? If they're going to handle it like prior generations for their home consoles, where they wait until sales reach a halt, a screeching halt, and then they wait another year after that of having basically no sales to come out with minimal to no momentum, then yeah, maybe you would think that with the amount of games coming out now, it wouldn't make sense. But myself and many others don't think that's how things are going to shake out. Let's take into consideration that Nintendo is focusing on one single platform now. In the past, while there may have been scenarios where Nintendo did wait until there was a big drought and really slow down sales with their home console, they still had their handheld consoles that were consistently selling well all throughout. Nintendo can't afford to just take their foot off the gas. They're going to continue to sell games, and they're going to continue to push hardware because they're focusing on one single platform. And I also think Nintendo has discovered the formula for success. Having everything focused on one platform with this hybrid system, games coming out consistently all the time, almost every single month, sometimes multiple games in a month. This is what's led them to such great success. So when you consider those things, and then you also consider how both Sony and Microsoft have now adopted these strategies of having more of a seamless transition from one generation to another, I don't think it's realistic to think that we're going to experience a significant drought with Switch before the next generation. I actually think it's going to be the opposite. I think content is going to stay as consistent as possible, and when the next system comes around, it's not going to be like a cold turkey Switch. There are going to be games on Switch that we're going to enjoy, and there are going to be games on Switch 2 that we'll enjoy. And there may be a lot of cross-gen games. There may not be that many exclusives at first for Switch 2. Nintendo may treat this more like a premium system. And if they are going to treat it like more of like a premium system, or perhaps kind of like, dare I say, a Switch Pro, then I can kind of see an announcement maybe happening this year. And let me just make myself clear. When I say Switch Pro, what I mean is a system that will still transfer over all of your eShop downloads, your Nintendo accounts, your save files, all of the games you have on Switch, you will be able to play on this newer system, but it will have more power, it will have more features, so you can enjoy a little bit more with the system, and it'll be a little bit more expensive, but not everyone will have to buy this Pro model. They can just enjoy what's currently out there. It'll be very comparable to that concept, except it is going to be like Nintendo's next generation system. It's going to be a bit of a blurred line situation. I think as the years draw on and as the times are changing, what is a previous generation system and a current gen and a next generation system, that's all been very blurred. Like, what generation do we fit the Switch into? Is it in the generation with the Wii U and the PS4 and Xbox One, or is it in the generation of PS5 and Xbox Series? It's just not that black and white. So when I entertain the idea of a Switch 2, or again, whatever it will eventually be called, coming out sometime next year, with an announcement potentially happening sometime this year, although I think there's definitely a lot of reason to think it'll take a little bit longer sometime next year for the announcement as well. It's because I think Nintendo's going to have a smooth transition, and the Switch itself is still going to be getting games and support for a few years. Nintendo will hit that 10-year lifespan for Switch, if not a little bit longer, but it won't be the only system out there. When Switch came out, 3DS still had a few years of support. I think it's going to be similar. So with that all said and assumed, what other circumstances does there need to be for an announcement this year to make sense, for it to be feasible? Because we already have Mario Bros. Wonder coming out in October, Mario RPG coming out in November. These are going to be major releases for Nintendo this holiday. Nintendo is still pushing sales for this holiday. They have a forecast of 15 million, which will be their third drop in a row in terms of overall hardware sales, which historically definitely suggests that we are close to the end of the generation, or at least close to the announcement of a new generation. But they're still pushing sales. 15 million is still pretty good considering how many years the Switch has been out. Switch has a tremendous opportunity to become the best-selling system of all time. So Nintendo is absolutely going to push things. So this idea that Nintendo would announce a next-generation system, say, I don't know, in August or September, shortly before their major holiday releases, that could potentially ruin the sales impact of the holidays. Why would Nintendo do that? Does that really make sense? And I think in many cases, it would not make sense. But there is a scenario where it does. It's if the next system gives people no reason to buy the current system. And as I said earlier, I'm going in with the assumption that the Switch 2 is going to be treated more like a premium system. It's going to be a higher priced Switch that runs games better, they're going to play better and look better, and there will be some additional features that people will be able to enjoy on Switch 2, maybe like enhanced rumble, maybe more comfortable controllers, maybe better VR support. There's different things that are possible on next-gen hardware. But I do believe in order for this system to be treated as a premium, they're going to have to decrease the value of the current Switch. The Switch is currently selling at $300. The Switch OLED, which is the better-selling model, and the last I checked is at $350. I don't think Nintendo could come out with a next-generation system that's, say, only $50 more expensive at $400, and for that to make any sense. There's no way you have a next-generation system that's leaps and bounds more powerful and more efficient for just $50 more. There's just no way. And I also think there's no way that Nintendo can get away with selling a system for far more than that price range of $300 to $400. If they hit $450, $500, I think you're really stretching it. That's not how Nintendo tends to do things. They've never sold a system for really that high. They try to go for a more cheaper price point to reach a more mainstream, widespread market. So what I think needs to happen is a price drop. Maybe they drop it by $50 or $100. And if they were to do a price drop like this, even if they do announce a next generation system, Because that system at first is going to be treated more like a premium, and most games coming out from Nintendo will still be playable on the base Switch, sales aren't going to take that much of a hit. And if they have some special bundles, if they have some quality games like Mario Bros. Wonder or Mario RPG, and a significant price drop, I think Nintendo will still have a great chance to hit their forecasted sales, but also be putting themselves in a position where they could come out with new hardware, and most would be okay with this. Now, something else I'm considering, though, is the kind of games that would be coming out. Because I do believe 3D Mario is ideally the best launch title for a next-generation Nintendo system outside of a new 3D Zelda. It's been when they had 3D Mario or 3D Zelda. But with Mario Wonder and Mario RPG coming out this holiday, I have a very hard time believing 3D Mario would be coming out, say for example, this March to close out the fiscal year. And that would be the implication of an announcement this year, sometime next month or the month after. So without a major 3D Mario to push the system in March, if that's indeed what is happening, right, this huge hypothetical we're talking about for this video, what could Nintendo do? Well, again, if they are treating this as a premium that's not going to be selling like 20 million immediately, maybe only 5 to 10 million at first, they may just have a lot of games that are enhanced that are currently available on Switch, like Tears of the Kingdom, for example. Maybe they have some DLC coming out around that time. Maybe you could play Mario Bros. Wonder in 4K, Smash in 4K, Mario Kart in 4K, or some sort of upscaled version of those games, maybe not necessarily 4K. We'll see how things pan out with that. But there would still have to be some kind of major title. And a title that would be something that would showcase the capabilities of the system. And what comes to mind to me that would make sense for the timing based on what we've heard is Metroid Prime 4. Now don't get me wrong, as big of a Metroid fan I am, I understand that the Metroid series is not really that big of a seller. Metroid Dread, the best-selling series, has sold around 3 million, which is a great number. That's the kind of number that Nintendo will feel very comfortable with having further iterations on. We see even lesser sales for the Fire Emblem and Xenoblade games, and yet we get consistent releases for those. But is the 3 million range a substantial enough number to make Nintendo feel confident in using Metroid as something that can push new hardware? I don't know the answer to that question, but I'll say this. When Nintendo released the Switch OLED, you wanna know what the launch title was for that? Metroid Dread, the Metroid game that sold 3 million, which is currently the best-selling Metroid game of all time. And Metroid Prime 4 isn't going to be a side-scrolling Metroid game. Metroid Prime 4 is going to be a first-person adventure Metroid game. It's going to be something that may appeal to a larger audience. Or at least it's going to be more of a visual, technical showcase for the system. And typically with larger scale games, we see better sales on Switch. Take a look at Tears of the Kingdom, for example. Or even Kirby and the Forgotten Land. That is the best-selling Kirby game of all time, and they went away from side-scrolling Kirby to a 3D Kirby game. So maybe Nintendo was testing things out with Metroid Dread and the OLED release, and maybe Nintendo does expect Prime 4 to sell better than even Metroid Dread. So maybe that's something they are saving for a end of the fiscal year kind of launch with a new system, and they'll be announcing that sometime this year. If there's a price drop this holiday, I can kind of see it happening. There are rumors that Metroid Prime 4 may be out by the end of the fiscal year. I think this is conceivable, so it might all be fitting in quite nicely. But something to point out is that in some earnings reports, Nintendo has suggested that they have no plans for any price drop anytime soon. So does that mean that I don't expect this to happen? Well, I'm not sure what's going to happen. I'm kind of 50-50 on it right now. There's been a lot of smoke lately, so I might be swaying in this direction because I'm biased. But it should be noted, when Nintendo says they have no current plans, they can make plans 2 weeks later. So I still think a price drop could be announced for this holiday, and that would be totally fine. Now, something else that a lot of news outlets have been saying is that Nintendo's told us that there will not be any new Switch hardware coming out for this fiscal year. Except, to my understanding, and I've brought this up in several videos, is that Nintendo never actually said that. I'm of the belief that that was actually a bit of a misinterpretation that became widespread because of headlines. If you actually look at Nintendo's Q&A, if you look at the articles where this information came out from, there is no single quote that says that. Nintendo's president Shuntaro Furukawa simply said that their 15 million forecast is only accounting for Nintendo Switch, which may imply that's the only system coming out by the end of the fiscal year, but it doesn't necessarily confirm 100%. So in short, I do think it is possible that a Switch 2 announcement could happen this year. And I will totally concede that on Monday, when we were talking about things, there's all the different rumors going around, and the different insiders suggesting something may or may not be happening pretty soon, I was thinking maybe there's a 51% chance that there is an announcement this year, which is basically 50-50. But you know, some of those rumors have suggested Q1. Is that Q1 for the calendar year or the fiscal year? Because if it's for the fiscal year, that'll be between April and June, which is pretty feasible. It could happen then, and if it's happening then, Nintendo may not announce it for this holiday. They may announce it maybe in February or March, wait a little bit after the holiday, then have like a 4-month big marketing build-up, which some may say is a very short interval, but keep in mind, Nintendo Switch was teased in October, had its blowout in January, and it came out March 3rd. And that was more than half a decade ago. It was more than 6 years ago. Nintendo has shown that they can have very quick turnarounds between announcements and releases. I think Nintendo could totally pull this off and be totally fine. It wouldn't be too different from the window we saw for Switch, and the Switch may end up going down as the most successful system of all time. So if Nintendo announces a price drop anytime soon, then I think an announcement could happen this year. But if we get into September and the Direct comes and there's still been no announcement for new hardware for next year, I'm definitely thinking it's not happening until sometime next year. The announcement, when it releases, maybe by holiday 2024. But we'll see as things pan out. What do you guys make of this situation? Let me know in the comments below. This is Andre's Restart. Thank you so much for listening and watching, and I'll see you all really soon. Take care. Bye.